Welcome to TechZine TV.
Welcome to TechZine TV. We're at Salesforce's Agentforce World Tour in Amsterdam, and we're talking to James Semple. He's Product Management Director for Agentforce Commerce at Salesforce.
That's right, yeah.
And many products fall under the Commerce Directive, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we say Agentforce Commerce, we're talking about B2C, business to consumer commerce, B2B, business to business commerce, order management, payments, and point of sale, so in-store technology as well, the clienteling and point of sale technology.
Okay. You're here to talk about agents within commerce, because commerce is getting agentified as well, basically.
That's right.
What kind of agents can your customers expect with Agentforce Commerce?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the way to look at it, I think, is and maybe take a quick step back and say there's three levels. The way that we see it at Salesforce, there's three levels of agentic commerce. And I want to say this because I think there's maybe a little bit of confusion. Sometimes when I talk to the customers and they're not obviously embedded in this every day, they might say something like, well, do we need this agent because isn't ChatGPT doing something, or are these guys doing something? So I want to maybe just talk about three layers, three levels, three stages of agentic commerce. The first one we define as syndicated commerce. And by that, we're talking about the ability to put your product at the point of discovery within third-party platforms. So to move away from sort of marketing speak.
Yeah, what does that mean?
It means expose your existing catalog to things such as ChatGPT, Perplexity, and so on like that. And as part of that, which you can maybe talk about, we've created this really groundbreaking partnership with both Stripe, the
payment
provider, and OpenAI, who I'm sure everyone knows, right?
Yeah.
And together, we're going to be the first to support the new Agentic Commerce Protocol. Okay, this is going to allow agents to buy on behalf of customers, and it's going to be available where the customers are doing their research, right?
So autonomously, so they can. So it's going to be fully governed, fully auditable, fully secure, all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess when you talk about auditable, yeah, I mean, this comes down to how many layers you want to go down to. If you think about stuff, because I often talk to customers who say, well, our products are really simple. Some grocery people will say that to me, our product's really simple. Who's really going to do a lot of research over buying a tin of beans or something like that?
Yeah.
And I said, but think of it a couple of levels up. What if I'm organizing a party and I need to cater and I need to get a delivery of groceries as part of that? Think about just the way we used to use human travel agents and the way that they would actually be doing hotel bookings and maybe event bookings and obviously actual flight bookings and stuff like that. That would be the way that I would look at how these agents are going to be able to work. So even quite simple purchases could be 3 or 4 agents down. I just say to my AI assistant, hey, please, let's do this stuff. Yeah. And it goes off and then fields that work out. And obviously you can imagine this is going to be a growing area where people are going to provide AI assistants to do things like travel bookings
for this
party planning.
For this to be successful, you need a proper protocol. That's the point you're trying to...
Exactly. So we, together with Stripe and OpenAI, can be the first to support Agentic Commerce Protocol, this ACP. And this is going to allow you to turn basically any conversation in any AI assistant instantly into a secure sale. So that's going to be interesting if you're working there. So this is what we call stage 1. This is just stage 1.
Yeah.
So stage 2 is what we call channel agents. Channel agents is where you're actually able to meet your customers, where they are in places such as WhatsApp and iMessage. Now, I'm afraid I don't know the Dutch market as well as you guys do. For instance, somewhere like Dubai, WhatsApp is a key player in terms of doing commerce. So that ability to meet people in the middle of that and to be able to turn just a conversation. And even in the UK, it's quite popular now for particularly luxury brands to use WhatsApp as their main form of communication rather than email because it feels more intimate, more personal. Yeah. And this gives you that nice kind of reach out and communication. And maybe kind of jumping the gun here, but it feels organic to introduce this. We're tying together with our marketing cloud so that you'd be able to reach out through WhatsApp. This is coming, just to be clear, this is coming Q1, which is at least April before that.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to reach out with something like a typical message in marketing cloud that you're controlling, personalized message to your customer. But instead of saying, I don't know, the new stock is in, the new range is in, instead of saying go to a link, it's like, are you interested? And you simply respond directly in that WhatsApp channel. And it moves from a marketing reach out directly into, a shopping agent.
So if the reach out could be, are you interested in this new product, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And he would say, yes, and they would immediately send it to you if they have your information and all that stuff.
Well, no, it's more
And you would immediately buy it as well. That's or not.
no, it's more like you go into a shopper-facing conversation. So maybe we could define a little bit about what we mean by a shopper agent. A shopper agent is, I hate to say this because everyone says, "Oh, I get it, it's a bot." It looks a bit bot-like. Let's just say that, right? But it's exactly right. A really flexible, incredible, versatile bot. It's the shopper agent effectively is a series of skills to give a conversation, provide the appropriate information about product data, order data, all of those kind of things. And then, so rather than actually immediately sending you the product, it would say, "Are you interested?" You'd say yes. And it'd say, "Well, we noticed that you bought," so it's personalized. "We noticed that in the past you bought these. There's a new range of those in stock. Would you like me to show them to you?"
So that actually makes then it has quite a bit of agency, right? That bot. And I think that's the point.
Right.
Because a lot of agentic stuff nowadays isn't really agentic in the sense that it takes the lead.
Right.
But in this sense, it actually takes the lead. And
Absolutely. I mean, without trying to sound funny about it, that's what we really define agents as in Salesforce, that they have certain roles that they're defined, they have certain access to information, but they are able to take action, as you say.
But you do need to have a relationship with these vendors, right?
Right. Exactly.
So to come up with a concrete example, I don't know, BMW, Audi, Mercedes, whatever brand, will send you a text like, "Hey, we launched this new car. Are you interested?" "Yeah, I'm interested." "Do you like it in white and in blue and red? Which color do you prefer?"
That's actually a brilliant example because in their case, they could also go into maybe like a test drive booking as well, which again shows the flexibility of these agents. But frankly, I think we're really scraping touching the tip of the iceberg right now, because as people realize what you can do, the perfect example you just gave
But you
build that.
You were talking about reaching out to customers through WhatsApp. I also learned from many vendors that they expect that everybody will have a personal agent in the future. And if there'll be Gemini or OpenAI or Claude or whatever, there are so many, so you have to see which one. But that's also going to be something you can converse with to do shopping, to compare products. I don't know, you're in for a new washing machine or a new television. You're comparing products, and in the end, you can say, "Do you want to buy it?" And if the customer says yes, on the background, you will handle payment and shipment. And
I mean, absolutely. I feel like, to go back to my first stage of, my first stage comment around syndicated commerce, that's exactly the game plan there. That, as you say, again, depending on how busy you are, whatever, there might be some people who effectively have a personal AI assistant on their phone that frankly runs like 60% of their life.
But one of the questions also is how much is stage 2 connected to stage 1, right? So what he said, there are many different models out there, but now you have the stage 1 partnership for the protocols with OpenAI and with Stripe.
Right.
Do you need to have that to actually start using stage 2 as well? Or is it, what are the...
That's a great question.
Yeah. What are the advantages of actually having both?
Yeah, well, so that's a great question, and we'll also have to get to stage 3. But I think, I guess,
sure. We'll get there. No worries.
You make a really good point there, because you make a really, really good point, because this is the common question I get, as I say, from retailers, from anyone working in commerce. But do I need this if I already have that? And I think the answer, as always in commerce, is, do I need a website if I have a shop? Well, yeah, you need all of those. So to your point, I guess what I would say by stage 2 is it probably requires a little bit more work from the retailer, the commerce vendor, to set that up. Because for the first one, a lot of that can be done not quite automatically, but close. And you just expose those features, and then, maybe build apps within ChatGPT and so on like that.
That is something that you need to know before you start doing this, right?
Absolutely do.
This all sounds very, very nice. And I think a lot of companies would love it.
Yeah,
absolutely. To be able to do outreach, to customers and potential customers and all that stuff. But you need to think about what you need to have as a foundation to actually start doing that.
100%. And obviously, one of the first things is you need to have great data.
Yeah.
And you have to have, when you're releasing your catalog, is your catalog great? Is it incredibly consistent? Do you have every field filled in on every product and stuff like that? So we're also releasing tools to help customers do that, with like product readiness toolkits and stuff.
Yeah. Get into the PIM, product information management stuff and all that.
100%. Yeah. Well, the simple fact of the matter is, I could imagine a lot of companies would be quite happy to have that on their own system. But when that kind of gets out into the wide world, they're like, maybe it's not as completely consistent as we'd like.
So now stage 3. Let's just complete.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
Otherwise, going to get lost.
So stage 3, So stage 3 is the one that I would say takes the most work. However, This is the flagship brand experience. This is where you really give the best experience to your customers. It's trained on your own trusted data, and it's really designed for you to own the relationship with your customers, okay? You own that relationship, and it gives you an opportunity to give them a very customized, tailored brand experience that also uses, for instance, your tone of voice and stuff like that. So with a syndicated one, while it does reach a wider audience, you are obviously losing some control there. You don't know which other products are going to be turning up in responses to ChatGPT questions alongside yours, you know? Whereas in this one, you obviously have that full control. And this is really the messenger inside a website, which has the acronym MEOW.
Yeah.
Messenger in a website, yeah.
Okay.
But I think that's another area. I mentioned early on that, there's this thing, it looks like a chatbot. And, frankly, it does look still a little bit like a chatbot. As we've said, it's obviously different. It can do things chatbots can't, but that's a little bit like, if I sort of tilt my head and squint, yeah, I see it's not a chatbot, right? It needs to be a lot.
But yeah, so the onboarding on it is hard because people will think at first it's a chatbot.
Exactly.
Go away. So WhatsApp is the low-hanging fruit now then?
I would say so. And obviously with the new Agentic protocol, exposing it to ChatGPT is a low-hanging fruit. But with this, what we're trying to do, because, as you say, lay people who aren't immersed in this every day, they tend to conceptualize new technology through the user experience. So we're trying to make that user experience a lot richer, move it away from that kind of bottom right-hand pop-up, more integrated into the page, a lot more visual, a lot more images, for instance, moving away from text-based.
Yeah.
But this is the experience. This is going to be the one where your customer comes to your site and you're able to give a really, really controlled, curated experience with your tone of voice, with your brand.
I think you hinted at it before, but also in the stage 3, I think there's a big marketing component to that as well, right? To actually, it's a tone of voice and to make sure everything is in order.
Yeah, 100%.
So you need to make a connection between different services that Salesforce offer.
Absolutely. And obviously personalization is going to come very heavily into that. This is an opportunity to deliver an incredible white glove concierge service at a personalized level to all of your customers. But as you say, you do have to do a bit of upfront work, particularly around your data, particularly ensuring things like personalizations there. It's actually able to tie into what we call shopper context.
Yeah.
And I guess I probably need to say this because it is Salesforce, and I'm speaking on behalf of product. So this is called the shopper agent. Just to be clear, the shopper agent, we all got that, right? Just to be clear. But it does tie into things such as Data 360. It does tie into our shopper context capabilities, which is the ability to take if we take a step back for a second, 80% of shoppers on websites typically aren't logged in. They're anonymous.
Yeah.
80%, right? Which
That's
is
a lot.
Obviously. Yeah, really. So that ability to take what we call context, which is things like what device type is being used, where is the customer from using IP geolocation lookup, what time of day is it at that point, what's the weather like there, all of those things that we can pull into inform it. So for instance, if I say something like, I want a jacket on a website, something quite simple, even though I'm not logged in, it might be able to say, well, this person's dialing in from the Netherlands. What's the weather like today? Does this person want this now? If I'm like, I want to buy a jacket, where can I pick it up in your stores? Oh, well, he definitely wants a jacket that's going to fit today. So, and stuff like that. So you can actually use that to inform a really clever response.
Can you do it in sort of near real time?
Yeah, absolutely.
So maybe the customer changes his mind because, maybe not this jacket, maybe some other type of jacket, whatever. You need to immediately be able to detect that behavior, right? Because there's a huge behavioral component to this as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And using the customer's responses to inform your future interactions is really a pivotal part of that.
Can Salesforce take care of all that data prep or that data kind of stuff that needs to go into the...
Well, we don't offer a weather service, just to be clear.
No.
It's important, right? Because Salesforce, one of the things I really, really love about Salesforce is our approach to data. And the reason I like this is because I speak to hundreds of customers around the world. And frankly, it's very rare for a new prospect to come to us and say, our data is perfect. It's in such good shape. Nobody tells me that. They're all like, oh, don't talk to me about data.
I don't even know what they have.
Yeah.
Right. And this is
where it's stored.
Right. And this becomes a really interesting area because what I love about our product is it's really pragmatic solution. It's like if you've already got an existing data warehouse, we can link across to it without having to copy that data again. Yeah. What we call zero copy connectors. So it means that we can access all our data in real time.
You don't move it.
But yes, exactly.
I think that's a very important point.
We neither move nor duplicate that data.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. But the other thing about Data Cloud is, that said, we can connect all the existing data sources. However, people often run companies or parts of companies on what I'd call locally structured data. So for instance, an Excel sheet, something like that, a spreadsheet, it's locally structured. Yeah. There's obviously important qualities to the table itself, which explains the data. but it's only locally structured. Once you get outside of that spreadsheet, does it relate to any other spreadsheet, for instance, right?
No.
And then secondly, completely unstructured data, by which I mean things like emails or just regular documents or manuals or PDFs of manuals and things like that, right? So by being able to take all of your existing properly structured data warehouse and link it in with other databases and link in all of this other data that's kind of, we don't know where to put it, you can throw that all into Data 360. Now, in the past, that would have been a nightmare because it just becomes like a junk room, right?
Yeah.
But we have agents. So those agents, if you give them access to the appropriate thing, and of course you can control what they can access, they can go into there and they can draw that information out. So you can create a real-time responsive FAQ by just having those manuals inside, and maybe customer feedback, maybe information from things like service requests, stuff like that. You can have that all available so they can give really intelligent answers. And then to the point I was mentioning slightly glibly earlier, but it's really true. You can still link out to external large language models, and Salesforce has done agreements so that, for instance, we're not exposing the prompts out there. We're certainly not exposing any personally identifiable information.
I would think so. Yeah.
Obviously, not doing anything like that. So it's very secure, and it still can interact with those kind of more general knowledge aspects of large language models external to your own.
But is the marketing role getting broader then? Because now you're talking about doing website marketing as well by controlling how a customer interacts with a product or with a page by giving it more knowledge or an interactive chat or whatever with an agent. And, and you're talking about communication through WhatsApp, which is also kind of new. I know they're already trying to send kind of spam messages, but this is different because now you're really trying out with an interactive agent that can have a real conversation. So there are the whole new marketing fields popping up, I guess, then.
Right, and absolutely, we're joining, marketing and commerce more closely together because we're able to take, for the first time ever, transactional and behavioral data from people shopping on the site and actually feed that back into Data Cloud to then inform Marketing Cloud in terms of, the way that certain people shop, the kind of products that they're looking at, and things like that. So as you say, marketing moves away from being sort of spammy to much more personalized, and this actually is relevant because it depends on people's, lives. So, for instance, you could even start to draw kind of some inference from things like this person only shops on a night. So that might be a good time to actually reach out to them. The rest of the day, they never use the website. They're probably really, really busy. So there's a lot of things you can kind of draw like that to help inform that. So instead of, as you say, kind of effectively annoying people with very generic stuff, you can tailor things to people like, I can't deny that in my life, certain reach outs through tailored content have led to some amazing experiences. Kind of random reach out on social media to me, targeted advert, allowed me to, buy tickets to see Seinfeld, which is my wife's favorite comedian, to get like stand-up ticket, and a lot of experiences like that. So it definitely can be very beneficial for everyone involved, bringing the right content to the right people at the right time. Yeah, so
it's my favorite comedian too. So
I just want to say he's not going to say your wife has a great taste.
What's the with Marketing Cloud?
But
big fan.
I've been following Salesforce for quite some while, and I know that the commerce product was also very interesting for SMBs, based on the product you're selling, of course, because you need to have some margins.
Absolutely.
But is that still the case now? It's agentified, or is it now more for the bigger ones?
Oh, that's a really interesting point. Well, again, maybe you could look at the, this is why we talk about those three levels.
Yeah.
For instance, I think syndicating your commerce out to ChatGPT probably fits everyone. And then maybe as you go up, depending on how much you're already investing in your website, maybe it will make less sense to have that personalized experience. If you're a luxury brand, obviously it makes a huge amount of sense to have that. Speaking to luxury brands, the first stage, frankly, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. You can't not be at the point of product discovery. It's like not having SEO right now. You can't not be at that point of product discovery. But at the same time, again, as I say, you can't control how the branding works, the tone of voice, or anything in that situation, right? You can't control if your brand is showing up next to more of a budget brand and stuff like that. So that's just going to be the way it is.
There's a real issue here, maybe, right? For small companies,
right?
How do they use this big behemoth of? That's
I see a point
that's
there.
how it comes across, right? So
Okay.
Ideally, they want to. At least to me, I can't speak for everybody, but this sounds like a lot of work, and you need to be really mindful of how you do things, and a lot of smaller businesses are like they're still finding out as they go along, right? So they don't really have the clout to do this properly. Man.
That's
Or the
actually
capacity.
that's actually a really, really great point. That's actually a really great point because I feel that where you really get a fantastic total cost of ownership with Salesforce is by joining those clouds together.
Mhm.
And because the integration is almost minimal. It's much lower than if you were buying with other products, even if those products were seen as budget products or whatever you want to do, and even open source, maybe free.
Yeah.
There is still an integration cost. And the fact that these are all run by Salesforce, they're all integrated with Data 360, they're all designed to work together, means that not only the initial implementation, but also the maintenance for the future, you're just going to get a lot of consistent sort of synchronicity as new features are added, new features compound upon themselves. So
Yeah, but you could
Sorry,
also
go ahead.
argue that maybe not all smaller companies need all those new features, right? So
Well,
but
that's fair. That's
they
fair.
will still be paying for it, and I think there's always, I mean, there's always niches that do
Right,
things
sure.
in a way that you
Yeah,
you can't really fully support anyway,
Right,
which
right.
is hard. But I think it deserves a little thought. I think the smaller company.
Yeah, 100%. And so one of the things from my background, and we obviously, it's a very tight presentation podcast today, but with my background that we didn't talk about was that I was one of the people involved with the Mac Alliance right at the start of that. And
On the headless stuff.
exactly. And
Okay.
so, I was working for a company called Mobify at the time that Salesforce acquired, and that became part of our composable solution there. But I think at the moment I am seeing more of a move in a kind of what do we get out of the box? How do we get these features together? So to the point raised earlier, with something like Data Cloud, Marketing Cloud, and Commerce Cloud, and maybe even Point of Sale and OMS, I know it's buying a lot of software, but the capability of that software, even for a small to medium business, is incredibly powerful, especially around things like this level 3 owned and operated agents, where they're part of your site, the meow, as we were talking about earlier. Yeah.
But the initial target audience for this, you're going to trial it or test it out or the first customer will probably be the bigger customers, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So
Imagine.
Pandora is a great example of that, and Pandora have been very public and vocal about their support and how they're using it. 2 seconds.
No worries.
What I was going to say about that is that I think the great thing about Agentic is that it's a very consistent user experience. And what I mean by that is just if you just take that marketing journey that we mentioned in WhatsApp. So he starts out, hey, are you interested in this product? Yeah, I am. Now in the background, the shopper agent kicks in and goes, oh, wait, great. Let's have a conversation. I know everything about selling to you, all the way through to checkout. And then you say, well, hey, I ordered this a week or so ago. Where's my order? And then if you have the product, the OMS or Service Cloud agent now kicks in and says, oh, hi, we're actually able to tell you that your product's en route, blah, blah, blah. By using particularly that kind of order servicing, Pandora was able to actually close down 60% of cases without having to get like a human involved effectively, right? Which is one of the biggest time wasters of existing, merchandisers is answering these kind of, where is my order? And so that ability to do this. So the reason I guess I'm getting at this, because I've had a few people say, what is a conversation that, the easiest way to interact with this? It's maybe a button for this, a button for that. It's the fact that you can ask it anything. And it will immediately sort of turn on a dime, as the Americans would say, and move across between all of these different areas. The point is, and I often say to people about this, the North Star, we've all probably done this, right? We have a store that we know, maybe it's a family-owned thing. You know all the people who work there. They know you really well. They know their products really well. Every time you go in, how are you today? This thing's come in that you like. How did that last thing go? Very personalized experience. It's the absolute North Star of personalization, right?
Yeah, but if you close deals much quicker, and which is a good thing if you're in commerce, obviously, you want to close deals as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
It also has an impact on your entire supply chain and all that stuff, right? So,
100%.
and your inventory and all that stuff, because that's also something that you need to take into account. If this is successful, ideally you want to sell more.
Right, exactly.
In the same time that you used to sell less, right?
Well, ideally, that's actually a really good point, because the other aspect of this is using agents at the merchandising level. So to go back to my North Star, I would say that's actually really what great customer experience looks like these days.
Yeah.
Great customer experience looks like the kind of individual store, the family-owned business, right? Even if you have thousands of employees, millions of customers, they all want that kind of feeling of one-to-one experience.
Yeah.
So to the point, this is how you can do that great experience with agents for a personalized white glove experience. But at the back end, everyone's saying, well, how do we deliver that? That puts even more stress on my team. And so this is where agents for merchandisers come in, being able to take a lot of that off their shoulders and automate and, do some of those more onerous tasks at the back end as well.
So shopping has been changed
Absolutely.
a lot in the last 20 years.
It really
And
has.
from physical stores to online.
Yeah.
Now we're going to change again. If we hear what you're saying, it's all going to be agentified and more agent-like experiences.
Yeah.
I really hope we don't get into this situation again which you have on certain big e-commerce websites. When you bought one toilet seat, they will try and sell you a toilet seat for the 4 months after that as well. How many toilet seats do you think I need, right?
Exactly. You bought a grand piano. Would you like another grand piano?
We'd like to stay away from that, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I mean, that's a great example of exactly the kind of things
Yeah.
you can improve on and give a better experience.
Yeah.
So I guess what my point was, to go back to that North Star, you always have to ask yourself, would this happen in that kind of store?
Yeah.
From a service point of view, from a marketing point of view, as you said, would that person say, "Hey, you bought the grand piano, do you want another one?" They wouldn't do that ever, would they? Right. So that's how you can sort of test: is it working?
And in Europe, you have a lot of smaller vendors, and I'm
Right.
thinking about them a bit. And I think it's a bit of a sum up game. You know, you have your service, you have your shop, you have development going on. If you're a decent shop, you're
Right,
trying to
sure, of
develop
course.
it to improve that. You're improving your service. You're now looking at AI, and you guys are saying we can offer all that in one package, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's the right way to look at it. Absolutely. Yeah.
And how hard is it to migrate a store to commerce? Because that's what the next question they're probably going to have. Yeah, that's all nice, but
Well, I mean, I think a lot of it does depend on where you're starting from. I see what you're saying. A lot of it does depend on where you're starting from, and to a certain degree, what you would like to end up as.
yeah.
But I think at this point, this is an area that we're really, really focusing very, very heavily on in Salesforce. We're continuing to develop and focus very hard on our storefronts,
Mm-hmm.
and give wide flexibility and range of different storefronts. Whether you want to use something that's very out of the box, whether you want to use something that's incredibly custom built, or even perhaps reuse part of your existing storefront. By which I'm talking about the front end, like something built in React, or something in the middle.
But you're also offering a lot of best practices. At least you did it in the past. So
Yeah.
where that you guys have tested. If you place the button here in this color, it works better than when you place the button here in a different color. So
100%. That is a big part of why customers like to partner with us. Is exactly that we also bring those industry insights. Sometimes I'll go to a meeting and say to the customer, "What do you want to do next?" And they'll be like, "Well, what should we do next?" We came to Salesforce for that reason. We want that sort of mentorship, that guidance. And to your point, the same thing is going to happen with how to best deploy agents as well. We're going to be learning those across all of our thousands of customers in the coming years. So it's a great point. Absolutely. Yeah.
All right.
okay. Thank you, James, for being on our show.
It's a huge pleasure. Did I get the job? Do I?
Well,
We'll get back to you on that.
we're going to on that. Thank you for watching TechSign TV from Salesforce Agentforce World Tour in Amsterdam. We'll be back with more videos right after this one.
Thank you for watching TechScene TV, the channel about enterprise technology that brings you IT insights and analyses from events all around the globe. We cover everything, everywhere. Visit techscene.eu for more written in-depth articles and analysis, or keep watching techscene.tv. Don't forget to subscribe to our channels and share your favorite videos with your colleagues. We'll see you soon.